I've been thinking about lawn bowls lately. It's the only reason I'm thinking about it. I'm not planning to do it, but I turn 80 in 6 months' time, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I'm not going to be playing bowls. I might continue doing a little bit of singing. I don't do a lot. So it's really lovely to be here this afternoon to share some of my favourite songs, and it's equally lovely to be able to sort of play with Marcus and Gary. We've done quite a lot of recordings and had a bit of fun over the years. Last week we were in Woy Woy. That's one of the highlights of my career. But I have performed in many places. So we're going to have a bit of fun, as I said, and do some of my favourites. We jump around a bit, so there's some bush songs and there's some city ditties. But getting old, you know, is a bit weird. I don't feel 80, I feel about 70, which is just as bad. And, you know, your body's sort of like you're maintaining it all the time, and I always laugh because, you know, the memory's still here most of the time, so that's pretty good. But I remember a friend of mine, her husband died, and she was really determined to get the last word in, and she organised a seance. And apparently she told me, they were all seated around the table, holding hands, trying to make contact with her ex-husband. And they weren't getting anything. There was nothing happening. Then all of a sudden, she heard this shuffling sound. And she said, "Bird, is that you?" And this voice lofted over the room saying, "Yeah." And she said, "Bird, what's it like on the other side?" And he said, "We get up in the morning about 7:30 and then we have sex till morning tea about 11 o'clock. And then we have sex till lunchtime about 1 o'clock. Then we have sex till afternoon tea about 3 o'clock. Then we have sex until dinner time. And it just keeps going." And she said, "Bert, heaven sounds fantastic." And Bert goes, "Heaven? No, I'm a rabbit in Dubbo." Okay, here's a song about getting riper. I don't say older, I say riper. Like an old beautiful peach till you fall off the tree. Okay. It's an alphabetical song. A is for arthritis and B for bad back. C is for chest pain, was it cabbage or cardiac? D is for dentistry, decay and decline. And E is for eyesight, I can't read the top line. F is for flatulence and fluid retention. G are those gases I'd rather not mention. H for high blood pressure, I is for itches, and J the bad joints that I cover with my breeches. Wearily, so wearily we go, it's not much fun getting older, you know. But roll it on down, send it to me. The alternative's not fun, oh, I'm sure you'll agree. That's the chorus. K is for knees, all knobbly and bent. L is libido, I think mine is spent. M is for memory, haha. You know what's his name? And N is for nerves and that terrible neck pain. O is for osteo and joints that go crick. P are the prescriptions we have to buy every week. Q is for queasy, I think I feel sick. And R is for reflux, one meal turns to 6. Wearily, so wearily we go. It's not much fun getting older, you know. But roll it on down, send it to me. The alternative's no fun, well, I'm sure you'll agree. S is for sleep, I wish I'd get some. T is for tinnitus, I can still hear that hum. U is for urinary and problems that flow. And B is that terrible vertigo. W is for illnesses still not found. X is that, L is for what? X-ray and that great ultrasound. Y is for years, another one I've survived. And Z is for zest, thank God I'm alive. I've been collecting songs, singing songs, writing about songs, blah, 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 for just over 60 years. I started very young. I did my first ABC program when I was 22, and I've been on the ABC ever since. I'm the expert. Not that good, I'm the expert they bring in when they can't find an expert. So if you want to know about chocos, convicts, dunnies, bushrangers or whatever, they end up bringing me up. Here's a song that I put together about 50 years ago called Tumbabloodyrumba. It's the drovers, the itinerant workers in the bush, they love to skite. They always reckon they were the best, and this bloke was no exception. He looked for work at muster time. We tried him as a rider, we tried him as the roustabout and as the cook's off cider. He said he'd sail the 7 seas, he'd been down in Alaska, he'd been in every western state from Texas to Nebraska. He said he'd shore a sheep or two and cut a bit of lumber and waged war with the kangaroos at Tumbabloodyrumba. Oh, we tried him as a shearer, we tried him as a stacker, we tried him digging rabbits out, he wasn't worth a cracker. He had a shop in Singapore, he owned a whirl and lugger. He was a chap at Baccarat, Australian rules and rugger. Now he sent in shore a sheep or two and cut a bit of lumber and waged war with the kangaroos at Tumbabloodyrumba. Oh, he never showed his aptitude at jobs he was allotted, but showed his skill upon the booze and cigarettes he blotted. He said he'd climbed the Matterhorn, he'd been a union leader, and years ago in Adelaide he was a pigeon breeder. He said he'd shore a sheep or two, cut a bit of lumber, and waged war with the kangaroos at Tumbabloodyrumba. Oh, we tried him digging fencing posts, we tried to find his caper, until that happy payday when he got his piece of paper. I wonder where he is now, perhaps back or chasing kangaroo. Bloody ruse and Tumbabloodyrumba. He said he'd shore a sheep or two and cut a bit of lumber and wage war with the kangaroos at Tumbabloodyrumba. You know, not that you hear many old bush song people like me singing bush songs these days, but you rarely hear convict songs. So I thought I'd include a convict broadside ballad today. You know, I'm fascinated with these story songs that came over with the early settlers or those that came as convicts. There were 168,000 people were transported, and including about 15,000 under the age of 16. Even on the first fleet there was a 9-year-old. It's extraordinary when you think about it. We ended up being quite successful as a nation. America, on the other hand, was settled by religious settlers, and we were settled as a prison. Today we're about 470%, well, their homicide rate's about 470% more than ours, so I think we won. I think we did all right. The convict ballads, you know, reflect an attitude. This one is called the Botany Bay Burglar, or Son, oh Son, What Have You Done? And they always have this story. They're trying to say that, you know, all right, maybe I was guilty, I was sent here, but one day I'm going to go back. A lot of them didn't. It was a one-way ticket, of course, unless you had rich family back home or you worked for a while after you got your ticket to leave, then you could go back. But this is pretty typical because it's sung in the first person, as if I was the convict, right? I was brought up in London town, a place you all know well. Brought up by honest parents, the truth to you I'll tell. Brought up by honest parents, raised most tenderly, till I became a rambling youth at the age of 23. My character soon taken and I was placed in jail. My friends, they tried to help me and get me out on bail, but the jury said, you're guilty. The judge to me did say, we're sending you for 7 long years to that place called Botany Bay. Oh, to see my poor old father standing at the docks. Likewise my poor old mother, a tearing of her grey locks, a tearing of her old grey locks. These words to me did say, oh son, what have you done to be bound for a Botany Bay? And it's son, oh son, what have you done to be bound for Botany Bay? Oh, they put me on a sailing ship one cold December morn. I never will forget the time we went around Cape Horn. The captain, as he passed me by, these words to me did say, oh, you'll rue your quotation left way down in Botany Bay. There is a girl in London town, a girl I know full well, and when I get my liberty, it's along with her I'll dwell, and when I get my freedom, it's married we will be. I'll bid farewell to New South Wales, farewell to Botany Bay, and it's son, oh son, what have you done to be bound for Botany Bay? There are some extraordinary stories from that period that this is interesting. My friend Charlie down here has a book in his hand. Hold it up. It's called The Old Bush Songs. Banjo Patterson, around the time he wrote, you put it down now, but it's a good book. By the time he'd written Waltzing Matilda and The Man from Snowy River, there was a renewed interest in the bush, particularly because the population in Australia was moving into the cities, because that's where the work was in commerce and manufacturing. And Patterson wrote through the newspapers that he was collecting all the old bush songs. And that book was put out in 1905, and I was fortunate enough to do the 2005 centenary edition of it. But the thing that interested me about it is that Patterson didn't include any convict songs at all, because people believed in the convict stain, that it was a bad thing. Now we celebrate it, and of course in the bush in its heyday, in the second half of the 19th century, people would never say to a fellow itinerant worker, like a shearer or a drover, you know, where are you from? Never ask where you come from, because you could have had the convict stain. The convicts survived somehow or other. After the gold rush, that big defining point in Australia in 1851, because in the course of 25 years our population just boomed. Something like 1.4 million people came to Australia to try their luck with gold. An old bloke I recorded, Rad Dawson, he had the gold fever for a while, and he said to me, plenty of gold in Australia, Warren, but a lot of Australia mixed in with him, he used to say. Anyway, the shearers and the drovers and the farmers took over from the gold. Once the gold petered out and the companies came in and had to dig deep, well, we were on a big economic ride on the sheep's back in particular. And the shearers, so many great stories about these people, but they, like the drovers, were incredibly proud of keeping Australia economically successful. This is a song called Home Sweet Home that is pretty typical of those shearers, because many of them in the old days would get their season's check and they'd say, oh, I'm going to go home and see my sweetheart or my family. And of course they only got as far as the nearest pub, where they were very often lambed down. That was the term. They'd give their check to the landlady or landlord, and the deal was that after 3 days they stopped serving them, and they'd throw them into the dead house, that room at the back of the pub that had 50 blowflies trying to get out and 50 trying to get in, and they'd wake up with a terrible headache. They were given a bottle of rum or brandy or whatever and sent on their way. The only thing that saved them and changed all that was the introduction of the railway. That meant that many of them could hop on a train and go home. But this is a song called Home Sweet Home. The the truth, it's in my song so clear without a word of gammon. The shearer travels all the year, waiting for the lamb, and he meets his friends, and pretty soon he's trying to party. And where they go, the money's all spent, that's little he is thinking, and it's home, sweet home. That's what he left it for, his home, sweet home. Starts, he hears the price that's going. New arrivals meet old friends, then they start their blowing. They reckon they can shear each day their 100 pretty handy, but 80 sheep's no child's play when the wool is close and sandy. Home, sweet home, that's what they left it for, their home, sweet home. That's your bit. When the shearing season ends, they get their piece of paper to the nearest hotel bar. They cut a dashing caper. They call for liquor plenty, and they're happy while they're drinking. But where to go when the money's all gone? That's little they are thinking. Home, sweet home. That's what they left it for, their home, sweet home. Stop their nerves from shaking. They call for one, they call for two, in a way that's rather funny. Oh, this won't do, the landlord says, you blokes have got no money, and it's home, sweet home. That's what they left it for, their home, sweet home. They're sleeping on verandas, and they're lounging on the sofas, and to finish off their spree, they're ordered off as loafers. Their money's gone, their friends have flown, and at it's disappearing. They give 3 cheers to the river bend and jog along to shearing. Home, sweet home, that's what they left it for, their home, sweet home. Frenchman likes his sparkling wine, the German likes his beer, the English likes his half and half because it brings good cheer. The Irishman likes his tot, the Scotsman likes his hot, the Aussie Bushman has no favourite drink, so drinks a bloody lot. Here's a story of Bluey Brink, the shearer who would drink anything. There once was a shearer by the name of Bluey Brink, a terror for work and the devil for drink. He could shear his 200 a day without fear, and drink without think, and 10 gallons of beer. Now Jimmy, the barman who served out the drink, he hated the sight of this here Bluey Brink. He came much too early, he left much too late, at evening, in the morning, and round about 8. One morning, while Jimmy was cleaning the bar with sulphuric acid he kept in a jar, along comes old Bluey, a-howling with thirst. Whatever you've got, Jim, just give it to me first. Now it's not down in history, it ain't down in print. This shearer drank acid with never a wink, saying that's the stuff Jimmy won't strike me stone dead. This'll make me the ringer of Stevenson's shed. as he turned out the drink. Old Jimmy was shaken with the terrors and fear, too nervous to argue, too frightened to fight. A picturing that Shearer, a corpse in the night. And the very next morning, when he opened the bar, along comes old Bluey, hollering for more, with his eyebrows all singed and his whiskers deranged, holes in his hide like a dog with the mange. Says Jimmy, hey Bluey, how'd you like the new stuff? Says Bluey, oh it's fine, but it turned any rough. It caused me to coffin, you know I'm no liar. Every damn cop set my whiskers on fire. Old Bill the Shearer had been phoned to catch the train next day. He had a shed at Gundagai and an early start for May. So he rolled his swag and packed his bag and he scurried off to bed. But for sleep he could not steal a wink to soothe his aching head. He heard the missus snoring loud. He heard a ticking clock. He heard the midnight train blow in. And he heard a crowing cock. Now, yeah, good in. Bill, well, he was in shed number 3. He grabbed the missus in his sleep and he shore her like a ewe. The first work soon was done, then down the neck he flew. As he picked her up and dumped her, down the whipping side he tore. She dare not kick or wriggle, she'd seen him shear before. He was leading Nick the Ringer, he was leading Mick the Brute, when he picked her up and dumped her like a hogget down the chute. He was staring out the window, half awakened from his sleep, when he saw the missus laying on the footpath in a heap. God blimey, I've had some nightmares after boozing up a treat. And I've walked without no trousers to the pub across the street. But this one takes some beating, and it's one I'll have to keep. I dare not tell me coppers I saw the missus in me sleep. Euabalong is a place out near the Lachlan, out near West New South Wales. You know, there was a time in Australia's history when there were a shortage of women. There were 5 men to every girl. And if you were working out there in those remote stations, I guess the sheep started to look more attractive by the day. There were quite a lot of New Zealand shearers came to Australia. Just point that out. Oh, it's who hasn't heard of Euabalong Ball. The lads of the Lachlan, the great and the small, come bent on diversion from far and from near, to shake off their troubles for just once a year. There were feelings in plenty, some 2 or 3 small, some wieners shake off their troubles for just once a year. There was kissing and hugging, of course, on the side, and tender emotion when saying bye-bye. And each man he swore he was like as a trivet as he gulped down his 20th rib of lemon. Oh, who hasn't heard of Euabalong Ball? The lads of the Logan, the great and the small, are bent on diverting from farther from here to shake off their troubles for just once a year. The drovers, you know, they had an extraordinary life, travelling miles and miles with sometimes something like 600 to 1,000, maybe a few more cattle. One of the things they had to do was settle them at night. And after they'd had a meal, the cook took the first watch, and then they'd have turns to look after the cattle so they didn't stampede. You never wanted the cattle to rush, and they used to get a bit spooked, especially by dingoes. You know, the dingoes, I was up in Miles in Queensland a few years ago, and their whole sheep industry up in that area was wiped out by the dingoes. They were ferocious up there. You know, they are the smartest dog, one of them in the world, I think. In fact, I got talking to an old dogger. These are the men that are employed to shoot the dingoes, keep them under control. And he told me that the trick was you had to get them straight through the middle of the skull. And he said it confounded him up there in Miles. He said, I was up there for about 4 days, and I was on the properties, and I could see the dingoes. They'd line up, and we'd have the big flashlights, and I'd aim, and bang! Oh, shit. And in the morning, he said, I'd go up looking for the bodies. No, never found them. He said, then I realised that these dogs were so smart that they'd organise that they'd line up, and every one of them would close their right eye, and the bullets would go between them. They're that smart. On another occasion, when I was out collecting out near Logan, I was walking along a track, and I found this old swaggy sitting on the track, sitting down, and he had a chest set set up on an old orange crate. And on the opposite side was this blue heeler dog. And I knew not to be too forward in these cases. You usually just stand there. I went and I said, "G'day," and he went, "G'day." And I watched them for about 10 minutes. Every time the swaggy would make a move, the dog would look at the chess set, and then he'd nudge a chess piece. The swaggy would look at it, and he'd move a chess piece. The dog would look at it, he'd move a chess piece. And I said to this fella, I said, "Mate, that's a very smart dog you got there." And he looked at me and he said, "I don't know. I win sometimes." You know, one of the things that the drovers did, they had lots of ditties. You know, they used to do ditties that would teach them the brands of the cattle. That was important. So they would do things like, "Oh, the northern brand is NT1. NT1 is the northern brand. Oh, the Killicuddy brand is KKK. Killicuddy brand is KKK. Oh, the farmer he chased his wife with a broom. Oh, the farmer," and so on. Or they do little singing, harmonica, whatever, and they do a little bit of mouth music, I suppose you'd call it, where they're diddling, where they'd go, Boogieman, a boogieman am I am a little boogieman, a boogieman am I. I am a little boogieman, a boogieman am I. With me diddle idle doodle idle diddle idle dum. Wayne mentioned the Banjo Patterson. I played Banjo Patterson with Max's Henry Lawson for a couple of years, 4 years actually. It was a wonderful experience, and Patterson, of course, was a great writer. He was more humorous than Lawson. Lawson was pretty depressing in many ways. He had a different view of the bush. Both of them fantastic, of course. And they came along at that time that I mentioned where the bulk of Australia started to be in the cities on the coast. So they were looking back at the bush as a romantic sort of place. This is Patterson's song, a Bushman's song, he called it, and it's the story of Bushman. Patterson's father had gone broke up in Queensland with his uncle on a property, and then he bought a property out at West New South Wales. He went broke on that, and eventually he got a job managing some properties down near Yass, and let the other bloke go broke instead. Yeah. And I'm a station hand, and I'm handy with the rope and pole, I'm handy with the brand. I can ride a rowdy colt, swing an axe all day, but there's no demand for a station hand along the Castle Ray. And the ship, boy, the ship, there wasn't the slightest doubt. Oh, we'd have to make a ship for the station further out. I saddled up the pony and whistled to the dog, and we went up the country with the old jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog. I took the job of shearing once along the Gundagai, and the boss said we sheared on Union here. I called it scab, said I. I looked upon the shearing board before I chanced to go. There were 8 or 10 non-union men a-shearing in the row. And the ship, boy, ship, there wasn't the slightest doubt. Oh, I'd have to make a ship with the leprosy about. I saddled up the pony and whistled to the dog, and we left his scabby station at the old jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog. I went to the Illawarra where my brother's got a farm, and he has to ask the landlord's leave before he lifts an arm. The landlord owns a countryside, man, woman, dog and cat, and none of them dare to issue a word unless they lift their hat. And the ship, boy, ship, there wasn't the slightest doubt. Oh, that little landlord God and I would soon have fallen out. Was I to lift my hat to him? Was I his bloomin' dog? No. So we made for up the country at the old jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog. Oh, it's time that I was moving on of a mighty way to go, till we find artesian waters 1,000 feet below, and meet the overlanders with their cattle coming down. We'll work a while, we'll go to town, we'll have a spree in town, and it'll be ship, boy, ship. Ah, there wasn't the slightest doubt. Oh, we'd have to make a ship for the stations further out. I saddled up the pony and whistled to the dog, and we made for up the country at the old jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog, jiggity-jog. I spent quite a lot of time in my youth going to the Royal Easter Show. I guess many of you did when it was at Moore Park. I used to love the sideshows. I love that. I've got a whole series of films on my website, all free. There's a 20-minute one on Sideshow Alley. It's with all the freaks and whatever. It's sort of quite weird. There was one I remember called Syne and her performing Fleas. She had a flea circus, and she used to advertise it that these little fleas, you'd look through this big glass microscope, and supposedly these fleas were riding bicycles and lifting dumbbells and square dancing and so forth. I don't know if I could see that, but she said that she got all the fleas from the King's Cross flea pit, the picture theatre up there in those days, and she said, and they're just very difficult to train. And I used to sort of laugh at that, the fleas at Madame Zena's flea place. You know, the sideshows always amazed me. There was a lot in the bush, and they'd do anything to get a quid. There was one man who used to charge a shilling, and he had a big sign on the tent saying, come into the tent, 1 shilling, and you'll see the biggest mug in Australia. And you'd pay your shilling and you'd go in, and there was a big mirror there. Yeah. Oh, another one used to have sort of oddities. Like one had this skull of Ned Kelly, and he said, "Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the skull of Ned Kelly." And some shearer looked at it and he said, "Mate," he said, "that's too small to be Ned Kelly's skull." Because you know Ned Kelly's head got stolen, the skull got stolen from the police museum in Victoria. Anyway, he said, "It's too small to be Ned Kelly's head." And the showman looked at it and he said, "Yes, but this is Ned Kelly as a young man." Fleas, yes. You know, we play a little bit of dance music. I was recording Mrs. Colley up in Bathurst in 1973, and she was telling me about a tune called the Varsovienna, lovely, pretty tune, and well, she called it the arse over Anna. But you know, it reminded me that in the old days of the dances they had, the band used to get away with murder. They'd play a tune. They all had dirty words to all these tunes to remind them of the tune. And of course, once the microphones were introduced, they had to stop all that. Anyway, this is what Mrs. Colley did, this thing called Fleas. There's a flea over here and a flea over there. There's a flea over here and a flea over here. Here's another one and another one and another flea here. Here's another one and another one and a flea over here. A tune called Jenny Lind. In the 1840s, the polka was massively popular. And Jenny Lind was the first international star in the world. They named pubs after her. The old cradle the miners used, they called it the Jenny Lind. Anyway, you can hear the polka, how people would dance around the hall. Piddled in the white cat's eye, and the black cat said, "Gore blimey." That's the name of the tune. Here's a song called The Two Professional Hums. To be on the hum was to be on the bum. Swagman who moved around trying to survive in the 1890s and then again in the 1930s. Oh, come on, fellows, and listen to me, chums, and I'll relate to you the story of two professional hums who travelled England, Ireland, all over Scotland too, and took an oath in Bendigo, no more work they would do, no more work they would do, boys, toll-a-la-me boys, come and drink wherever you go, sing folder right-yo, for we are hums and jolly good chums, we live like royal Turks, and if we've luck, we'll hum out checks and shoot the man who works. Oh, we asked the lady the other day for something for to eat. A little piece of turkey or a little piece of meat. A little piece of chicken or a little piece of ham. Half a dozen loaves of bread and a bucket full of jam. Or anything at all, man, cause we're bloody starving. Anything to help a couple of jokers on their way. For we are hums and jolly good chums who live like royal Turks. And if we've luck, we'll hum our checks and shoot the man who works. Oh, a farmer asked us the other day if we would go to work. I said, what is the work? He said, the cutting of the chaff. I said, what is the payment? $1.50 for some. Well, we said, go shoot yourself, cause we would rather hum than work upon the harvest. Let the cocky starvers hum and drink wherever we go to follow the radio. For we are hums and jolly good chums who live like royal Turks. And if we're luck, we'll hum our checks and shoot the man who works. Oh, to conclude and finish the finish of me song, a song that was composed, me lads, by two professional hums who travelled England, Ireland, all over Scotland too, and took an oath in Bendigo, no more work they would do, no more work they would do, boys, whole of army doughboys, humming and drink wherever we go, sing follow the radio, for we are hums and jolly good chums who live like royal Turks, and if we're luck we'll hum our checks and shoot the man who works. Ah, la 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 We'll do one more and then we'll have a break and a cup of tea in there or whatever, and then we'll be back with some more. But we thought that we'd finish off with a song about Sydney Harbour. There's not a lot of songs about Sydney Harbour. This one is about, I found it in a songbook. The last one I found in Broken Hill from an old bloke. This one I found in a songbook. And I thought, this is a great story, a song about Sydney ferries. You know, around 1900, Sydney had the biggest ferry service in the world. In the world. And then one by one, Sydney Ferries Proprietary Limited brought up all these little companies. But it makes sense when you think, the Harbour Bridge wasn't built. So they had to get around the harbour. And it also coincides, the song, with the introduction of that newfangled invention and popularity of the telephone. When I was a kid, living in Ramsgate, we had a phone and we had a party line. I don't know if many of you remember that, but the phone would ring when somebody down the road was getting a call, and we'd always pick it up. And are you listening to my phone call? Please hang. Look, no. So here's a song from that period called "Take Me Up the Harbour."
2, 3.
Now Gertie's a girl, a sweet little pearl. She works down in the city. She's got a beau, his name is Joe, so handsome and so witty. And each Saturday when he gets his pay, a message soon he's reading. If you're feeling alone, ring me up on the phone. You're just the one I'm needing. And take me up the harbour on a Sunday afternoon to Manly Beach or Watson's Bay, round to Coogee for the day, all around to Clifton or Bossman it will do. Ha! Dear old harbour, Sydney Harbour, they can't beat you. Out on the waves so gently they glide, out on the harbour ferry, then homeward once more, explore where Joe was with his girlie, and out on the shore they kiss once more, and Joe says to his girlie, if you're feeling alone, ring me up on the phone, you're just the one I'm needing. Up the harbour on a Sunday afternoon, from Manly Beach or Watson's Bay, round to Coogee for the day, call around to Clifton or Bossman, it'll do. Oh dear, old harbour, Sydney Harbour, they can't beat you. Break and we'll come back to some more. Thank you. I was brought up with a family, a big family. My father was the eldest of 16 kids, my mum the eldest of 9. We had a lot of songs, a lot of little ditties in our family. I'll sing one of the songs my dad sang in a minute, but before that, I thought I'd do one about the Chinese in Australia. And, you know, many Chinese, thousands, came here to work and they were given a hard time, especially when they were seen to be working very industriously on the goldfields. But this is a song from the 1870s gold rush in Queensland on the Palmer River rather than the Victorian New South Wales gold rush. And it's called the Newchum Chinaman, and it's typical of these comic songs where this fellow in the song reckons he'd have more luck if he turned his eyebrows upside down, his skin inside out, and grew a pigtail. What's the use of talking? They won't let a white man live, for if there's any work to do to a Chinese man they'll give. So come all you straight-head natives, take my advice and plan, and turn your skin the right side in to become the Chinaman. Oh, goodbye, Mrs. Doolan. Oh, ta-da, Mrs. Doyle. No more I'll roam around Ireland or plague your Emerald Isle, for I am bound for China. It's there I will be found. I'm off to join the Chinese men, for Hong Kong I am bound. When first ever I put my foot upon that flowery shore, I'll scour the whiskers off my face, they won't grow any more. My eyebrows upside down I'll turn, my skin I'll yellow tan, and I'll eat my rice with chopsticks like a Newchum Chinaman. Oh, goodbye, Mrs. Doolittle. Oh, ta-da, Mrs. Doyle. No more I'll roam around Ireland or plague your Emerald Isle, for I am bound for China. It's there I will be found. I'm off to join the Chinese men, for Hong Kong I am bound. Pigtail 6 foot long, I'll roll the lingo round. I'll wear a pair of Chinese pants with the bottoms neat and grand, and I will call myself our Pat, though my name is Pat McCann, and it's off to Queensland I will go like a Newchum Chinaman. Oh, goodbye, Mrs. Doolan. Oh, ta-da, Mrs. Doyle. No more I'll roam around Ireland or plague your Emerald Isle, for I am bound for China. It's there I will be found. I'm off to join the Chinese men, for Hong Kong I am bound. I'll learn to carry baskets, I'll carry them on my back, and I'll pick up the lumps of gold that I find on the track. And when I've made my fortune, back home I'm coming back, and marry the girl I left behind, and her name is Magpie Black. Oh, goodbye, Mrs. Doyle. Oh, ta-da, Mrs. Doyle. No more I'll roam around Ireland or plague your Emerald Isle, for I am bound for China. It's there I will be found. I'm off to join the Chinese men, for Hong Kong I am bound. This is a weird story. This is a weird fact. The convicts in Sydney in the early days, many of them tried to escape, but the bush was impenetrable to them. They were scared of the snakes, the insects, the Aborigines, the lot. But they had this notion in their head that if they went up north through here and up to the Hawkesbury River and go past the Hawkesbury River, they'd be in China. So a lot of them went up there thinking they were going to get to China. They didn't. They didn't. Here's another unusual song. I was up in Queensland in the early 70s and I tape recorded a man called Cyril Duncan. His father had been a bullock driver in Bow Desert on the Nerang River area. And he had a song called A Long Time Ago on the Logan River, that his father had sung, and he sang it to me, and I don't think, well, I've never heard anybody else sing it, but it's unusual. It's about an Aboriginal picnic day. It's got some Aboriginal words for native animals, like charongs and cobbles of carpet snakes and so forth. hesitated singing it because I thought, I didn't feel quite right about singing it until I got a letter in those days from the local Indigenous museum, and they asked me if they could play the song because I'd made a recording of it, and I said, well, does that mean I can sing it as well? And they said, oh yeah, sure. So I'll give it a go. I mean, I hardly ever sung it, but we'll give it a go. A long time ago on the Logan, there were blacks of all sizes and sorts. A meeting was held at Bow Desert for the purpose of having some sports. First prize was a lovely fat burrabee of cobbles, and number was 6. Second and third, no difference. 2 iguanas half dead with the ticks. There were nullahs, carbuncles and cobbles, iguanas and yarragans too. Nullahs and spears and bunnigans, all thrown by that famous old blow. Now Blow being the best at the throwing, and Andrew's the best at the fight. Old Slab sent down for some bottles for the purpose of keeping things quiet. There were nullahs, carbuncles and copples, iguanas and yarragans too. Nullahs and spears and bunnigans, all thrown by that famous old Blow. Now Billy and Bobby got rowing. When there's grog, how those old darkies will. Old Charlie nearly split his side laughing when Bobby upset old King Bill. There were nullahs, carbuncles and cobbles, iguanas and yarragans too. Old nullahs and spears and bunnigans, all thrown by that famous old Blow. Now Blow received many a present. Of cobbles he had quite a sack. The only one seemed to grumble was that quarrelsome never tired Jack. There were nullahs, carbuncles and cobbles, iguanas and yarragans too. Nullahs and spears and bunnigans, all thrown by that famous old Blow. You hear a lot of new chums talk about going on the land and raising record crops of wheat on rocks and flaming sand. Well, I hate exaggerated skite, but if you like I can elucidate the case in which the land went on the man. Bill Jones, he had a mountain block down Kosciuszko way, farmed at nigh to death, the neighbours used to say. He scarified its surface with his double-furrowed plough and ate its bleeding heart out with his sheep and milk and cow. He stuffed up its intestines with his agricultural pipes, limes and superphosphates fit to give the land the gripes. Until this here land, worn out with Jones's thrift, reckoned that the time had come to up and make a shift. So one morning the mountain shook itself. It gave an almighty groan. The neighbours, they were more afraid than they were going to own. Their eyes popped out of their head. Their eyes they opened wide to see Bill's farm upend itself and down the mountain slide. It slithered down the mountainside, majestic-like and slow, and landed in a riverbed 1,000 feet below. Now Jones was on the southern tip of this long here suffering land. He'd just been testing out a plough. It was working like a charm. He'd just been screwing up a nut and he heard an almighty crack, and 50 acres more or less came down on Jones's back. He'd just been standing there owning all that land. Next is in eternity a spanner in his hand. They never dug up no remains nor scraps of William Jones. The superphosphates ate the lot, hide, buttons, boots and bones. For this here land that Jones had tormented and scared in the past had turned things round. Things got evened up at last. So all you city coves are saving up your coin to get upon the land. Watch out, the land don't get on yous. Now, I mentioned the Chinese. The Chinese were very popular as cooks in the bush because they were game enough to use a bit of spice and curry and so forth. You didn't have to know how to cook if you're working in the outback. You just had to know how to make a knuckle sandwich. You had to know how to fight. One bloke told me that he was on a station and the station cook, they reckon, had never ever cleaned the pot, and he was known. They all had names: the bait laker, the curry killer, and whatever. His was Greasy Soul because they reckon he'd never ever washed. In fact, he was so greasy, if you looked at him, your eyeballs just slid right off. Anyway, they reckon he'd never made an attempt to clean the stew pot. He just kept adding to it every day, the same bloody thing every day. And one day, one of the shearers said, I'm going to fix him. And he went to the laundry and he got some of those Reckitt's blue bags they used to keep the washing white. And he popped a few of those into the stew. He said, that'll fix the bastard. And the boys came in that night and sat down, and the cook came in with a big smile on his face and said, I got a change for you tonight, boys, blue stew. And if anybody doesn't like it, they can come outside and see me. And one shearer looked at it and he went, oh, no way, I'm not going to eat that. And he went outside and they were all listening. There's whack, 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 whack. And he comes in and he goes, it's bloody good, I hear. Here's a song about a station cook. I got this from 1875, newspaper called the Evening Star in Adelaide. A shearer had sent it in to them about their station cook. The song I'm going to sing to you, it won't detain you long. It's all about a station cook we had at Old Pignon. His cooking was so beautiful, his cooking was so fine, it gave us all a guts ache right through the shearing time. You should taste his plum duffs, his doughboys and his pies. I swear by Long Maloney, they'd open a shearer's eyes. He'd say, take your time, good fellows. He'd fix you with a glance, saying, I'll dish you up much better if you give me half a chance. Now cookie is a baker and confectionist by trade, and many a tasty brownie and doughboy he has made. He takes up in the morning, gives us plenty of stew tea, and don't forget when shearing's done to sling the cook his fee. But oh dear, I feel so queer, I don't know what to do. The thought of leaving Fowler's Bay, it breaks me heart in two. But if ever I get that slushy, I'll make him rue the day. He ruined me constitution when I was shearing at Fowler's Bay. don't I have some tales to tell when I get into Adelaide, of many a tasty story and brownie he has made. Our cook, he is so kind to us, so generous and St. Paul, that every time I look at him he reminds me of St. Paul. But oh dear, I feel so queer, I don't know what to do. The thought of leaving Fowler's Bay, it breaks my heart in two. But if ever I get that slushy, I'll make him rue the day that he ruined me constitution when I was shearing at Fowler's Bay. I used to say, what sort of cook is he? Just to cook. Now here's a song. I mentioned my father used to sing lots of songs. This is a kid's song. My father used to sing to me all the time. My father was although he was born here, he sort of like would go into this Irishy accent that to sing songs, and this one's called his Old Grey Noddle. And it's a young girl singing it. So you got this is the license that folk songs give you. A noddle is your head. And anyway, this is what he used to sing to me. There was an old man came over for tea. Oh, I'll not have him. Came over for tea. He sat next to me with his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle is shaking. My mother, she told me to bake him a cake. Oh, I'll not have him. I baked him a cake, he ate like a snake with his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle is shaking. My mother, she told me to pour him some wine. Oh, I'll not have him. I poured him the wine, he drank like a swine with his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle is shaking. My mother, she told me to chop him some wood. Oh, I'll not have him. I chopped him the wood, the silly fool stood with his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle, his old grey noddle is shaking. My mother, she told me to put him to bed. Oh, I'll not have him. I put him to bed, I chopped off his head, and the old grey noddle, old grey noddle, old grey noddle stopped shaking. I sometimes I just throw things in that it's not on the list. Don't look.
Oh, okay.
I was up thinking about kids. Kids folklore. That's my next book. It's called A Hop, Skip and a Jump, and it's a history of Australian children's amusements. And I love the little rhymes and things that the kids do. Things like Colonel Sanders came to town riding on a chicken, stuck his finger up its bum and said it's finger licking. Or do you remember the Profumo scandal, Christine Keeler and Mandy Rice Davis? Even then, when I started the early days of collecting, I found one that went, half a pound of Mandy Rice, half a pound of Keeler, put them together and what do you get? A dirty, sexy Shearer. How did I get onto that? I was going to sing a song. This is a song called the Old Macquarie. It's another one of those numerical ones. And this one I was recording a woman up at the Bathurst Home for the Aged. She was 92, played a concertina, and we had a lovely time up there. And the Macquarie River is up there in that area. And you'll know the tune, you'll know the song, but I love the fact that these are Australian. And please join the chorus, which is very simple. And it's to a tune that you know and I don't. Oh, Noah, no, that's it. Oh, Noah, that's it. Oh, Noah built himself an ark. He built it out of gum tree bark, blah, blah, blah. Let me start again. Oh, Noah built himself an ark. He built it out of gum tree bark. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 2 by 2, the wombat and the kangaroo. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 3 by 3, the little bug and the frisky flea. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 4 by 4, some to the windows and some to the door. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 5 by 5, some more dead than they were alive. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 6 by 6, some carried swags, some carried six. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 7 by 7, some from hell and some from heaven. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 8 by 8, some were early and some were late. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. Oh, the animals came in 9 by 9, some in a circle, some in a line. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. The animals came in 10 by 10. They said, we've had so much fun, let's do it again. One more river, that's the Old Macquarie. One more river to cross. Let's do The Beauty of 19.
Oh, right, okay, yes.
This is from Enos Newitt, up there in Queensland, many years ago. This woman, well, it's a love song. It's got a chorus singing. The chorus is easy. They said she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said she was a beauty, just 19 years old. One day as I was walking out down by the Strand, I found a young damsel, she was dressed up so grand. She had silk, she had satins, she had silver, she had gold, and they said she was a beauty, just 19 years old. They said she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said she was a beauty, just 19 years old. Her fingers, they were slender, she'd a neck like a swan. Her voice not too high and her voice not too strong. In 3 weeks we were married and the wedding bells tolled. I'd married a beauty, just 19 years old. And they said she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said she was a beauty, just 19 years old. Well, the wedding breakfast over, we retired for to rest, and my heart stood on end when I saw my love undressed. For a great load of wadding from her waist she did unfold, and I said, oh, you're a beauty, but 19 years old. And they said she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said she was a beauty. to her knee. She plucked off those fingers, I counted just 3. She popped out her false eye, on the carpet it did roll. And I said, oh, you're a beauty for 19 years old. And they said, she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said, she was a beauty, just 19 years old. Well, she took out her false teeth, and my heart struck with terror. For a nose and a chin, they very well nearly came together. And some more of that wadding from the way she did unfold. And I said, oh, you're a beauty, just 19 years old. And they said, she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said, she was a beauty, just 19 years old. When she took off her false wig, I thought I would faint. 'Cause down from her face she scraped a bucket of paint. And she took off her corset, a great hump I behold. And I said, oh, you're a beauty for 19 years old. And they said, she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said, she was a beauty, just 19 years old. So come all you young men, with a mind for to win. And mind your love is perfect from her toes to her head. Or else you'll be like me, yes, like me you'll be sold. A patched up piece of old work about 99 years old. And they said she was a beauty, a beauty, a beauty. They said she was a beauty, just 19 years old. Okay, here's a song called The Road to Gundagai, or Lazy Harry's. It's a typical bush song. Mentions, that lambing down where the boys would go into the pub and hand over their money. They called it lambing down because they were fleeced, like lambs to the slaughter. It's a practice that actually continued right up to the beginning of World War I, and it happened in the cities as well. Lots of tales of misery. I mean, one man I taped told me that one landlady used to, I mentioned they'd give you a cheque for the remainder of what was left after your 3-day spree, but she had a trick. This is in the days of horses and not trains, but she used to bake the cheque she'd written into the oven and bake it, and she'd give it to him. He'd put it in his saddlebag and he'd be away, and 100 miles down the track he'd open up the saddlebag, and of course it was just dust. They were tales, terrible tales. When the sheds are all cut out, and we'd whips and whips of rhino which we meant to push about, and we packed our swags carefully, made for Sydney town, with a 3-spot check between us that was what was knocking down. Oh, we went to Murrumbidgee near old Yanko in the week, and we passed through old and I met with some of both me lads that lived a song called The Lost Sailor. Have we ever done this live? I don't think so, but we'll give it a go. Live or dead, doesn't matter. It's a song I got in Adelaide, an old sea song. I was doing some research down there, talking to a mate of mine, Ivan, who was worked on tugboats. He told me a story about this ship was coming in, and there was one of the crew who had a terrible stutter, and he was in a terrible state and screaming and waving at the captain, and the captain knew that he could sing, this fella, and when you have a stutter sometimes you can sing. And he said, "What is it, man? Get over it, what is it?" And he went, "May old acquaintance be forgot and never far from mine. Our bloody cook's gone overboard, is now 9 miles behind." This is a tragic song, typical of all those old songs that we inherited from that end of the Victorian period, the end of it, where people like tearjerkers, like "Don't Sell My Mother's Picture in the Sale," and the luggage van ahead, that terrible one where the man's sobbing, the little girl's sobbing, and this lady says, "Can you please keep your daughter quiet? Why is she crying all the time?" And he says in the song, "Because her mother's dead in the luggage van ahead." I mean, they're tragic things. Now this is a bit like that, but not that bad. A sailor's life is a merry life. They rob young girlies of their heart's delight, leaving them behind to sigh and to moan. Oh, they never know when they will return. There's 24 all in a row. My sweetheart cards a brighter show. He is proper, tall and gentle withal, and if I can't have him, then I'll have none at all. Oh, Father, Father, fetch me a boat, so I might out on the ocean float, and every queenship that passes us by, I'll make inquiries for my sailor boy. She hadn't been long upon the deep before a queenship she chanced for to meet. Oh, you sailors all, come tell it to me. Does my sweet William sail on board of your crew? Oh no, fair maid, he is not here, for he is grounded, we greatly fear, on yonder green island as we pass by. Oh, we lost sight of your sailor boy. She wrung her hands and she tore her hair, much like a damsel in great despair, and a little boat against the rock she did run, saying, how can I live now that my sailor is gone? Here's one you can join in with. It's a very complicated chorus, but I think you'll pick it up. Your bit is your crows, right? It's a very old song. It's probably 300 years old or thereabouts. It was called the Twa Corbies, Two Black Crows. The story is that just like Heckle and Jekyll, these birds can talk, and they were sitting on a branch, and one of them says to the other, where will we have dinner tonight? And the other one says, there's a dead knight on the road up there, let's go and pick his eyes out, because if you're a crow,
Yummy.
That's the nice bit. Anyway, somehow it got to Australia and we don't have knights or whatever, so it changed a bit to being a dead cow. Oh, your bit is very difficult. You've got to go, ah, ah, ah. You want a rehearsal? 1, 2, 3. Oh, 2 black crows sat on a tree. They were black as black can be. Said one old crow to the other, where shall we dine today, dear brother? On yonder hills an old dead cow, I reckon we should dine there now. They perched upon his high backbone, plucked his eyes out, yum, yum, yum. Said one old crow unto the other, isn't this a tough old bugger? The farmer came down with his gun, shot them all excepting one who went, This old black crow got such a fright, turned from black right into white, going, And that is why you'll sometimes see a single white crow sitting in a tree going, I've done quite a lot in collecting about the war and how the troops in the First and Second World particularly survived in the very worst of times. And one of the ways they did it, especially in those trenches, was humour. There were enough trenches to circle the globe. That's how many. And the worst thing about the war was that the gas, when they started to throw the gas, and it was an Australian, very clever at inventing things, who realised that if he peed on his shirt and held it up to his face, the ammonia would sort of stop the gas going through his lungs. So that was clever. The whole survival through humour was interesting to me. What would be the one thing that the Australian soldier hated most? He used to say, a man's not a bloody windmill, and that was saluting. They hated it. And of course these kids, and they were mainly young men, who joined up, many of them because of the Cooey marches, or the Kangaroo, or the Waratah, or the Warragulls, all these marches that came from the bush and headed towards the Sydney domain where they signed up. And they were all timed to come at the same time. Amazing. There were thousands of young men, straight off the farm in many cases, and they used to chant as they were marching along the road to keep their sanity. They'd be doing things like, we're in the army now, we're not behind a plough, we live in a tent, we pay no rent, we're in the army now. And of course the kids picked up on this, and they changed it to, we're in the army now, we tried to milk a cow, the cow farted, we departed, we're in the Air Force now. One story I did like about this was there was a man called General Birdwood who was appointed to look after the Australian and New Zealand troops, and he was a bit pompous but a great soldier, but he wore a cap with a big plume in it, big feather, and there was a story of an Australian on leave in England going down Bond Street, and he passed General Birdwood, and Birdwood went, "Hey! Yeah? Are you an Australian soldier?" "Yeah." "Well, I'm General Birdwood." "Yeah? Well, why don't you pluck that feather out of your hat, stick it up your ass and fly off like any other bird would?" Disappeared. You know, Billy Hughes was a favourite of my father. He hated him. Billy Hughes was the Prime Minister before World War I, and he was always trying to get conscription up. Failed twice at referendum. And he was always after 5,000 more men to join. Anyway, at one stage he went on a publicity stunt. He went to England to get photographed with King George, smoking a cigar. And I found a little song about it, a ditty. I said I'd sing it for somebody mentioned it. Good. My father and my grandfather hated Billy Hughes. Everybody who was a Catholic or a socialist hated Billy Hughes. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to bang on the bathroom door when my dad was in the shower, and he'd go, "Who's that knocking at the door? If it's Billy Hughes and his wife, we will chase them with a knife and they won't come knocking anymore." Anyway, I found this song from a wharfie about Billy Hughes going over there. It's to the tune of it's parody, tune of "There's only a button between him and disgrace. That dirty little mongrel Billy Hughes is trying to introduce that damn conscription for boys and for men, and of course for him we've no use. He's a rat, a dirty old skunk. It's a pity that ship never sunk when it sailed the sea to the old country, where he fell on his knees to King George, with a duchess to welcome him in, to smoke a cigar with the king. He'd betray his own class, that it's come to pass that the hobnobs have fallen with him. To the Duchess will let him go back. His party will give him the sack. With one union grab we will soon own the land. Dump Hughes right off our backs. What we'll do, shall we do At Each Gate the Shearer stood? Yeah, I got this off Mrs. Colley up in Bathurst. She knew quite a few songs. This is sorry. At Each Gate the Shearer stood. At each gate the shearer stood as the whistle loudly blew. With eyebrows fixed, mouth content, the tigers all fell through. Up to the quicken of the shears as through the wool they glide. Look at down ringer, he is on the whip and slide. A lot of Lachlan tigers, yes, it's sure that we are. Up to our burly ringer as he loudly calls for Tarbo. Tar here calls one and quick the tar boy runs, and groom sweep those lots away, another loudly cries. The scene it is a lively one that ought to be admired. There's never been a better board since Jackie Howe expired. Along the board the gaffer walks, his face all in the frown, saying, "Keep those shears down, oh keep those shears well down." Oh, a lot of Lachlan tigers will be plain to see we are. Up to our burly ringer as he loudly calls for tar. Hey, tar here calls one and quick the tar boys fly. Tar, keep those lots away, another loudly cries. mean to have those bellies off and top knots off likewise. Oh, do be quick, none of your tricks, and away you go like flies. Along the board the contractor walks, he never on our side. Though the Shearer decent tandy lads, you know I always try. Oh, a lot of Lachlan tigers, well it's plain to see we are. Up to our burly ringer as he loudly calls for tar. Hey, tar here, calls one and quick the tar boys fly. Hey, broom sweep those lots away, another loudly cries. I have a pair of warden panes, they're bright and shiny new. I'll rig them up and I will show what I can really do. 'Cause I'm shorn in Queensland and out on the Paroo, but such a mob of tigers, well, I've never seen before. Oh, a lot of Lachlan tigers, well, it's plain to see we are. Up to our burly ringer as he loudly calls for tar. Tar here, calls one and quick the tar boys fly. They broom sweep those lots away, another loudly cries. Here's a Henry Lawson poem that's set to music. It's Henry liked to drink. He liked to drink. They used to say he'd write a poem for a pint. And this one, he's imagining that all the girls, the boys in the roustabouts are turning into young girls with trays of whiskey and passing them round, and that everything in the shearing shed was really good. Two more, I think. Shall we have a go at the Wonderful Crocodile?
Oh, yeah.
This is a a song that I found in a songbook published in Adelaide in the 1890s or 80s. And it's a story of Jonah and the whale, but an Australian sort of version of it. It's silly. It's got a reference to the pyramids in the last verse. Come all you blokes and listen to me and tell you the truth I'm bound. What happened to me while going to sea and the wonders that I found. Shipwrecked I was on La Perouse and cast upon the shore, and I was found that very day the country to explore. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. That's the chorus, very easy. Join in if you can.
I don't know the words.
Now far I had not travelled out alongside the ocean, when I saw a sight that for all I thought was all the world in motion. And steering up alongside, I saw it was a crocodile, and from its nose to the tip of its sail it measured 500 miles. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. This crocodile like a tame sea was not of the common race, and I was obliged to have a jolly eye tree to look him in the face. And when he opened his jaws on me, well perhaps you think it a lie, his tail it reached down to the earth and his nose up to the sky. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. This crocodile I can plainly see was not a common race. Oh no! Oh, up aloft that tree so high, a wind was from the south. Oh, I let go and away did fly back into that crocodile's mouth. And when he closed his jaws on me, well, he thought he grabbed a victim, but I popped down his throat, you see, and that's the way I tricked him with me. Roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, roll the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I travelled on for a mile or more until I reached his moor. I found rum kegs not a few and 1,000 bullets in store. Of what dog cares away I threw, for in crime I was not stinted. I stayed inside that crocodile 10 years very well content. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. Well, alas, one day this crocodile died. He was so thick and high. He was 2 months in getting cold. He was so thick and high. His skin was 10 miles thick, I'm sure, or somewhere thereabout. 'Cause I was 3 weeks or more in hatching my way out. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. And now I'm safe on shore once more, resolved no more to roam. I hitched the berth on a passing ship, and now I'm safe at home. And if my story you should doubt, if you ever go down the Nile, oh, where he fell you found the tail of the Wonderful Crocodile. And I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. I followed the roll, the riddle of the Ray Day, followed the riddle of the Ray Day. Okay. Hey, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. We've had a bit of fun. This is only the 4th time we've performed this year, so it's not as if we do this all the time. I'm a bit busy doing books and things.
Almost this millennium at least.
Yes, exactly. And we haven't performed. Did we perform last year? I don't think so.
No.
But it's funny how the songs come back to you. And some of the words, they don't come in the right order sometimes. But it's good to share them with you. If you're interested in what I do, there's a website, just Google my name, and lots of videos, lots of recordings, including many of the ones that I've recorded for the National Library. They're now on digital files. I can't remember how many videos, but a lot on the Outback that I've done. I've also got copies of my book, not many, here, my memoir, which is Tell Too Much, including my collecting and when I had Folkways Record Shop and Larrikin Records and some of the shenanigans I got up with. I've got one of those little things that you can put your credit card so you don't feel any pain. So that's that. But once again, thank you for supporting Humph Hall and Wayne. It's just lovely environment here, and doing it without microphones is great. I've got a very soft voice, as you know. I'm going to finish off with a song that I got from a man, Herb Green. It's an Aboriginal-ish version of Waltzing Matilda, and this is what he sang.
Not sure which key we're in.
Old fella bagman, camp along a billy bung, under the shade of a big fella tree. Sing 'em, watch 'em, waiting for the billy to boil. Who'll come a walk about till the long of me? Who'll come a walk about, big fella roundabout? Who'll come a walk about till the long of me? Leading a dilly bag, meat from a tucker bag. You carry blurry swag till the long of me. Down came a jimbuck to drink at the waterhole. Up jumped the bagman and grabbed him with glee. And he sang as he pushed that jimbuck in his tucker bag. You come a walk about till the long of me. You'll come a walk about, big fella roundabout. You'll come a walk about till the long of me. Leading a dilly bag, meat from a tucker bag. You carry blurry swag till the long of me. Oh, down comes the swatter, mounted on his thoroughbred. Down come his troopers, 1, 2, 3. Where is that jimbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You come a walk about till the long of me. You come a walk about, big fella roundabout. You come a walk about till the long of me. Leading a dilly bag, meat from a tucker bag. You carry blurry swag till the long of me. Oh, bagman me up, he jumps into the waterhole, drowns blurry self near big fella tree. And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. Sing, who'll come a walk about till the long of me? Who'll come a walk about, big fella roundabout? Who'll come a walk about till the long of me? Leading a dilly bag, meat from a tucker bag. You carry bloody swag till the long of me. Thank you to Marcus and Gary, fine musicians. And don't forget when God knocked off one night, he said, "This earth's a rotten failure. How to improve it? Now let me see." Next day he made Australia.